In this video, we're going to discuss reference management software. For those of you who are not familiar with reference management software, I am sad for your undergraduate years of not having the advantage of using a tool like this. But on the other hand, I think you will really appreciate it when you see what it does. This is a very useful tool for things. For many of your courses, you're going to do case reports and you're going to have to search the literature, and you will find that this can be quite helpful in those efforts. The university has adopted a program called Zotero. It's free. That's the main reason they adopted it, I'm sure, but it's also pretty versatile. I've used EndNote for years, and I kind of like Zotero and actually am somewhat considering changing, at least to use both of them. Zotero documentation is located here off of this link. It'll come up here pretty soon. And this is where you go to learn about it. This is what the interface looks like. It has a library with your references. You can identify files, make up various topic areas of things you want to study. These are all your references. As you click down, you'll get to different things. We'll explore that a little bit more. When you download it, the first thing you have to do is download. We'll go ahead and click on this. Now, you need to load both Zotero for Windows or for your operating system of choice. You can see down here it has others. And you need to install a Chrome connector. And there are connectors for other browsers as well. You need both of these. This is your database management, and this is your connection as you search the internet. So that's the first thing you have to do. It's pretty simple. You just follow the directions on the screen. So we have looked at downloading the Zotero and the connector. You can add items or multiple items through Google Scholar. This link takes you to a help screen, and you can look over this to see how to do various things. We're going to go through and do some, but as it would be helpful for you to just read. It's basically just one long page that you can go through and see some of the cool things that you can do. The other thing that you're going to want to do is cite references in your document. So you're going to find your references, you're going to load them into Zotero, and then you're going to start writing a paper. Now, I have Word 365, and that's the online version. It's a subscription. You update it every year. It does not work with Zotero. And so other word processors, if you have them, they do. And so that's fine. For me, if I want to use Zotero, which is probably one reason why I'm going to stick with EndNote for Word, but if I do want to use Zotero and I do want to work on a project, I'll use Google Docs. There is a connection where Zotero works very well with Google Docs, and we'll see how that goes. So I think that you will enjoy that. The advantage of Google Docs is you can have multiple people working on the same document. You don't have to, somebody doesn't have to coordinate and go in and make all the changes and coordinate everybody's changes. You just work on it at the same time. It's Very nice. Google Docs is very good for group projects. All right. Now, here's our example. And you'll see it's similar to last lecture. Suppose you have a 66-year-old patient in your chair. She has IOPs of 29 OS and 26 OD. You have made the clinical judgment that she needs drops to lower her pressures. You recently talked to a sales rep who suggested Travatan as a good choice. As a conscientious doctor, you decide to make a quick search and determine if you agree that Travatan is the best drug. Search either Medline or Google Scholar to identify any Cochrane meta-analyses that compared travoprost, use the generic term to search, with other drugs, and choose the best drug for your patient. As you review the evidence, consider side effects, effectiveness, and cost. And this is an example we're going to go through, but it's also your homework following this lecture. Okay, here are some general questions to consider while reviewing studies in general. What was the population studied? So you look at the papers and you consider papers that are going to be in the range of 66 years old. Which drugs were tested? You want to make sure Travatan's in there. What was the cost of the drugs? You'll have to look that up separately in Google. Which was most effective in terms of what was read? Now, we're going to talk about how to determine whether one drug is more effective than others. You can see that with p-values, but those aren't necessarily designed to determine which drug is better than the other. P-values are used to rule out chance, but not test magnitude of effect. Were there any serious side effects? So you might have a good drug, but if it kills you, it's not going to be worth taking. Was the effectiveness of the most effective drug great enough to justify any additional cost? So sometimes the new drugs cost more, but are they that much better? And these are questions that you'll be able to answer after we've gone through later lectures. Which drug would you prescribe? This is subjective, and you use your best judgment. Cite the study you used. Generate a bibliography from your reference database. State whether you added the citations to the text using software add-on, e.g. write and cite. Actually, this is an old statement. There's no longer a write and cite. That was with RefWorks. Oh, we're done. Okay, so let us go to Google Scholar. And you recall from the last time we did a search, and we have our PICO, problem, intervention, control, outcome, and we're going to restrict it to meta-analysis. You can put in the plus with the meta, but it's kind of redundant. It becomes important if you see down in here, it will have a little line through meta saying this met your conditions, just not the meta. If there's a lot of those, then you want to not look at them and just look at the meta-analysis. Now, I haven't restricted the time, so you can see that we are well, for the first example, it's 2005, so we haven't, before we had set it up for 215, but now we've got lots of papers in here. Now, the first thing you have to do when you're going to use Zotero is you have to start the program. Zotero is a desktop application, and so you need to start it. If you don't start it, it'll ask you if you want to use the online version, if you've set up a thing for that. So here's my Zotero, and I am going to make a directory well, actually it's right here. New collection. And I'm going to call it glaucoma. Okay. Now the print's a little small. I apologize for that. I'm not sure. Yeah, I cannot make it bigger. So maybe there's a zoom function or something. But so this is our new folder, glaucoma. There's nothing in the library yet. And this is what I'm going to add to. So now I'm going to go back to Google Scholar. And then when you're in Google Scholar, or when you have Zotero loaded, and actually Zotero runs in the background all the time, up on your excuse me, up on your menu bar up here, you see a little, this is a file folder. Now this thing is in different forms depending on where you are. You could be on just a web page that doesn't have any references, and it will look a little different. But here you get this folder, and what it does when you click on this, Zotero says, okay, what do I have on this page that looks like a reference? And look, and I think you can probably see this, intraocular pressure lowering effects. Well, the first thing is intraocular pressure lowering effects of all commonly blah, blah, blah. Next one is travoprost compared, It doesn't do just the ones you see. It says everybody that's on the page. So the last one's meta-analysis of 24-hour intraocular pressure. And come back here, Zotero. The last one is meta-analysis of 24-hour. And so it only shows the first page. Now, there are about 500 results, which is really pretty crazy for a meta-analysis on a single drug. They're probably not all useful. So what you do is you go down the list. Maybe I'll shrink this a little bit so I can have this over here and I can scroll without blocking it out. So my question is Travatan better than other stuff? So lowering effects of commonly used glaucoma drugs, a meta-analysis. That sounds like one I'm going to want. So I'm going to put a little check mark right here. The next one is travoprost compared with other prostaglandin analogs, or timolol, in patients with open angle. So they've added timolol to some of these drugs. This was in 2006. Efficacy and tolerability of prostaglandin analogs, metalol. And so we have another one. This is 2008. Okay, I'm going to add these. Notice over here it says OK. And I'm going to put it into the glaucoma folder. Now, if we go down here, we can notice what it's going to add. And this is kind of interesting. It has the first one. It actually adds a PDF of the full text. Now, it's not necessarily the PDF. Sometimes it's a link. But it also does a snapshot of the screen. Same way down here, full text. This looks a little different. It's not a PDF, but it's something. And oh, it's still downloading. As you can see, the things were grayed out. Now, as they become in there, they show up. And now, if we look at our glaucoma folder, it now has 3 files in it. And then you'll notice next to the name is a little down arrow, and there's our full text. I'm going to click on this, and notice also over here it is added in the title, the authors, the journal name, the volume, issue, pages, short title, just some stuff, the date that you added it. And so that's pretty nice. Full text is at this link. Here's the abstract. A systematic meta-analysis was performed to evaluate the intraocular pressure lowering effects of these 3 drugs. It says when it was published, 8 trials were identified. They found 8 studies. IOP changed from baseline. It shows the changes. It gives the confidence intervals, the p-values. We're going to talk about something called effect size, or relative risk. The findings suggest a greater efficacy of bimetoprost compared with latanoprost and travoprost, although the incidence of hyperemia was lower with the latter 2. So works a little better, has fewer side effects. So here, one of the questions we're going to ask is how much better is latanoprost? We're not going to ask that right now, but in the lectures to come, we're going to cover it. Because if it's not that much better and it has fewer side effects, we're going to want to use it. All right. So that's one of them. We could do the same thing with the others. So there you see. Oh, one thing. Let's do this. Let's add a note to this. So let's go down. Let's see what those drugs were. Or let's put in the conclusion that latanoprost was best compared with the other 2. But copy. Now, one of the things that you should always do when you get a reference is to make a note on why you took that reference. Because when you go back, it's like you have to start all over again. So if you have a note, then you don't have to do that. So a new note, and then it gives you 2 choices: add a child note or a new standalone note. We want a child note. Child means that it's part of this. It goes under the title here. And so looking to see best IOP lowering drug. And then we copy that in there. I recommend you not copy from the article when you're creating your papers. That's called plagiarism and gets you thrown out of school. So that's not a good thing. So that is how that works. All right, now we have our references. Now let's go create a document. So let's come up to our internet. Let's go in, start a new page, Google. I'm going to go to Drive. And I'm going to start a new document. I'm going to start a Google Doc. I'll give it a name. IOP lowering drugs. Okay, and then down here, I have my things that we can start and say, like latanoprost was a winner in this, oh, not a winner. Was a winner. Oh, come on, baby. In this study. Now I want to cite that. Now, we want to add a citation. So you notice up here, we've added Zotero into the menu. So you click on that, want to add a citation, and it has gone into the database. We want to go to glaucoma, and we want to do the one where Bitama, I think I spelled that wrong. Anyway, here's our note. So this is the one we wanted. Let me check the spelling on that. It's not going to let me into it. Oh, you bum. Okay, so this is the one we want. We're going to say OK. And there it's added the citation. Now, let's say let's do some more. Here are a couple more references. Okay, go to Zotero, add edit citation. Let's put in this one. Hold down the control key. Oops. Maybe you have to do them one at a time. Okay. I got the first one. Now let's go to Zotero, add edit citation, add the next one. Okay. Well, that's not good. Let's put in a space and go into Zotero, add edit citation. We got Lee. We want this one. Okay. There we go. Now we have two. I'm not exactly sure the format in this particular case. In fact, I don't like this bibliographic style. But before we do that, let's go in and let's add a bibliography. Okay, fine. Zotero, add a bibliography. Now it's got a bibliography. So we have that article. There's the uptell. This is the second one. This is the third one. But I don't care for this style. It puts them. I wish I could get that little guy out of there. There we go. Notice it puts them in. It puts them in alphabetical order. Well, you can't see it, but I don't. Okay. Let's see if this gives me a spelling. Hey, look at that. One of the things that I use is Grammarly, and I don't see it listed on here, but it's clearly working because it goes through and it fixes my grammar and checks my spelling. And actually, honestly, I'm surprised it found Bimatoprost. So here are the references in alphabetical order. And I guess I don't know if they're in alphabetical order or that's just the order they were in the article. So, well, let's see what happens. We take this guy and well, we're not going to mess with that now. Okay, so I don't like this format. So I'm going to go to Document Preferences. And I'm going to say, we're at the American Psychological Association edition. This is optometry, not psychology. Let's do optometry and vision science. I have to tell you that there's a place where you can look for additional bibliography styles, citation styles. And I added this to my list. So, okay, I want you to see what happens. Here is my bibliography. I don't like this format. I'm going to go to another one. So I chose it. I'm going to say OK. And it changes it. Now, this is a very handy thing because if you think about it, I have not typed in a single reference. I searched, I loaded into Reference Manager, and I created a bibliography. I cited, I had to write the document. That's on me. I cited the references, and then I created a bibliography. And if you think back to your undergraduate career where you were writing out these references, trying to get the format right and everything else, then you've just got to be weeping a little bit in your insides of thinking of all that time that you took. Okay, so that's, I think, about it for this example. Google Docs automatically saves as it goes along, so I just have to close it. And